Welcome to this month's edition of Coffee with the Chief, and this time we are down in the Metro East area in O'Fallon, Illinois, and we're sitting with Chief Brad White. Chief, welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the area. I appreciate you coming down.
Thanks for having us. Can you start off with tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, prior military, was in the military for 13 years and then 15 years as a Department of Defense civilian. That's what originally brought me to the O'Fallon area back in 2004. Sitting in the office, realized I didn't have enough adrenaline rush, so I joined the department in 2005, became a volunteer, stayed as a volunteer until 2019 when I was hired on as the chief, and what brings me here today.
Yeah, once you get, I'm sure, through the military and the Marines, you can't just go back and sit at a desk and...
Not a chance, not a chance. It was not going to be good for anybody.
That's a big adjustment. What inspired you to come into the fire service?
Really, it was just the need to have something other than a desk for me. Came up here on a whim, kind of fell in love very quickly, realized it kind of gave me that military family feel. This is very much a paramilitary type structure if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So I fit in quite easily, and once I got going, I really enjoyed the fire service. Kind of wish I had started younger.
Mm-hmm. And who helped you in your career, inspired you to get into this?
Yeah, like I say, my dad's always been my inspiration, and trying to ensure that I put 100% into anything I do. Once I started, really early on, Brent Saunders, the chief at the time, inspired me. He was 100% in. He was into pretty much every organization you could think of at the time. So I kind of looked up to him, and now I look up, and still hang out and talk and rely on the chiefs in the area, Brian Doyle, Tom Elliff, others here in the local area that we work with quite regularly. And
what roles did you have under Chief Saunders when he was here that you were able to learn from him and learn the fire service?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously started off just as a firefighter, moved up into a lieutenant position, became the department quartermaster, and then really anytime I kind of came through the building working on something, I'd kind of try and pop in his office and just kind of get an idea of what I could do different or what was going on that I could help out with, and just try to become involved. Obviously, once I became chief, I realized there's a lot that goes on behind that door that you never hear about or know about. Right. So even after that, I was still reaching out to him once he retired and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or how in the world did you deal with that? So
it's great to have that resource and have, once he's gone, number one, to learn from him, right? But number two, once he's gone, to be able to still tap into the knowledge he has of the department and how things got to where they are. Because if you don't know the history of things, right, it makes your job a lot harder.
Yeah, he had been on the department for 30 years at that point. He was a full-time chief starting back in 2009 and was volunteer before that. So yeah, the history alone it's just a godsend to have him around to be able to tap into.
Mm-hmm. And so on the opposite end of it, what would your advice be or guidance be for people that are looking to get into the fire service?
I tell everybody just go for it, give it a try. Most of the fire service is volunteer, so you can continue to have whatever job or whatever thing that you do full time as your main goal. Mm-hmm. Continue on with that, but in the fire service, there's a niche for everybody. There's so much technology now that we need the young people that understand that technology. It doesn't work for all of us. But at the same time, if there are folks, a lot of military folks, the veterans out there now, I think would find that this is a good fit for them on the volunteer fire service as well.
And that's one thing with the fire service is everything keeps changing, whether it's the buildings we're going in, the contents of the buildings, people. Seems like you guys are staying ahead of the curve on training. Can you tell us a little bit about things you got going on here?
Yeah, we have really a state-of-the-art training facility out back that Chief Saunders put in back in about 2016. Yeah, we take great pride in trying to ensure that we maintain the highest standards of training, fire and technical skill-wise. We are a combined department where we're not worried about necessarily all the salaries for the firefighters. We benefit from being able to put that back into the infrastructure, facilities, and training, and we really focus on trying to be at the top of the game in the area.
Can you tell us a little about the history of the O'Fallon Fire Department?
Yeah, it's been a volunteer department since 1891. We're a combination now, but I continue to say we're really volunteer. Myself and the administrative staff, 5 of us are full-time, but all 50 of the firefighters and company officers are volunteers, and that's a legacy that we hope to continue for the foreseeable future.
And The department today, you're saying it's all paid on call and volunteer. What do you see for the future of the department?
Yeah, for the future, it's, the future is always that what if and when do things change. O'Fallon as a whole is one of the largest and fastest growing or cities in the area. Currently we're about 45,000 people over 45 square miles, and we're both the municipal fire department but also the surrounding district, so that encompasses both. It continues to grow very quickly, so the challenge will always be having enough volunteers come in the door to ensure that we're able to get the numbers and the trucks out that we need. When those trucks stop rolling out or the manpower levels aren't sufficient enough to maintain, then we have to consider doing something else. So
you're located in the city of O'Fallon. How does that differ from areas that are outside of the city as far as like the building review or fire prevention efforts that you do?
Yeah, so within the city limits, our full-time building inspector, public educator, he partners with the city code enforcement. They have the primary responsibility in the city for all the inspections, fire suppression systems and stuff. But we work very closely. We have a good relationship with them and point out things. They do the enforcement, but we do a lot of the educating with the businesses. And then in the surrounding fire protection district, particularly the village of Shiloh, we are the authority for that, and we do all the inspections for them.
So you've got a pretty good relationship with the city building officials?
Yeah, we are very fortunate. I think writ large, O'Fallon Fire Department has great working relationships with the City Hall and even the police department and EMS. We're three separate agencies. Police, fire, and EMS are run individually. But we work very closely together, and I think we are different than many departments in the area.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a good relationship. That's not always the case.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate. Those relationships were built before I got here. I rolled into them, and we've maintained them, and we've never had really a disagreement that we didn't fix at that instant, really.
Okay, and the demographics of the people and the businesses of O'Fallon, what's that look like?
Yeah, so it changes very quickly, but it's predominantly a suburban type of a city. We have the very old downtown back to the 1800s, all the way to the new construction. We average, anywhere from 150 to 200 new homes a year, plus all the businesses, a dozen hotels, a dozen or more schools. We stretch out in the rural area with the farms in the area for our district. So we have a little bit of everything. Highway, we have Interstate 64, big box stores. So we really touch about every industry that you can imagine.
And so just for everyone out there, how far are you from St. Louis? What's your proximity to the city?
We're about 18 miles from downtown St. Louis. We're considered in the Metro East area.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more about the apparatus? We toured the station prior to filming here. Looks like you got some really nice equipment.
Yeah, we do. Again, not having to pay the salaries makes a huge difference. So we put that to the training and equipment. And we have 4 stations, each with an engine. And then spread out amongst them, we have a 100-foot ladder truck, a 75-foot quint, another 45-foot heavy rescue, some brush trucks, support vehicles. All in total, we have about 17 apparatus out and about that we maintain and are able to rotate out on a pretty routine schedule.
And there's an ambulance sitting out there. How does the EMS fit into your operations?
Yeah, so they run it as a separate department, but again, we partner very close. Even our emblems and stuff run together. EMS runs out of our Station 4 and our Station 3. They have a 3rd ambulance at the public safety building and a couple supervisors. So they run about 5,500 calls a year, roughly. The fire department runs about 1,000 calls a year. So we help them when needed, but they run their own EMS service.
Okay. And we've talked a lot about your operations. Can you tell us about your community outreach and fire prevention efforts that you guys have?
Yeah, absolutely. We work really closely and have great relationships with the community. We benefit again from a lot of community support. We always try to reciprocate with as much education back to them. We partner with the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary clubs, multiple other clubs in town, homeowners associations. We always offer, anytime we can get out in front of a group and provide some sort of training. We have water extinguisher training we do, or fire prevention type material we can provide. We always look to do that. We're very proactive with the smoke detector program through your office. we install anywhere from 80 to 100 smoke detectors a year, going through neighborhoods and doing door to door. Now we're in the process of hanging door knockers just to schedule appointments to have us come out and take care of things.
Well, we appreciate you participating in that program because it's like a step up above just handing out the smoke alarms, right?
Right, yeah. We go in there and really kind of give them a quick safety lesson. We really explain to them the smoke detector itself. These are 10-year, but just the chirps and things that are common to them. We really try to push that education piece as well.
Great. And a lot of times the education and tell them about ETA drills and those kind of things, it's every bit as important as the alarm. It's like once you hear that alarm, what do you do? So the back end you guys are doing is really helpful.
Yeah, it has to be muscle memory to them just like it is to us, really, to handle that situation.
Exactly. One thing we can't go without talking about is COVID and how that's affected your operations, your department over the last year.
Honestly, we were somewhat fortunate. We've had a handful of people come down with COVID, one more severe than the rest, but no real impact to our manpower, and they were spread out over time. We had also kind of pre-COVID designed a duty call out. So instead of just the still in the box alarms on a lot of the non-emergency, the tones would go out for just our on-call duty folks. So we were already kind of limiting how many people were on the road for any particular incident. And then when COVID hit, we just limited how many come off the truck and go inside there. So we worked closely with EMS and followed all of the safety guidelines that kept coming out from the state and CDC. So we lucked out, I think, compared to many departments.
So it never really affected your ability to respond or have enough people to respond?
No, we were never short people. Never really had more than a couple out at any one time.
How about the surrounding departments? Did you have to offer more mutual aid than normal for that reason?
Honestly, in this area, it didn't seem to have as much effect. I know some of the larger departments going north of us really got hit hard. I think part of it being volunteer departments, your call outs and your responses are shorter and less manpower intensive usually. So you have less exposures and then follow-on exposures from that. So we've all kind of been lucky this year. And
I hadn't really thought about that because a lot of the departments experience firefighter to firefighter exposure, right? So they come in the station, they stay there for 24 hours. Being a volunteer department, you don't have that, right? Where they're in the same room for 24 hours eating,
you
sleeping.
Come in and you go out, even if you had multiple calls, you may not get the same people in. So your exposures are shorter in duration and opportunity.
Okay, well that's good to know. Last thing I wanted to ask you about is the bell. Can you tell us a little about the history?
Yeah, the bell goes back to the early 1800s. A few years back, this building's about 8 years old, but shortly after it was built, they were going to revitalize the downtown area and the old courthouse there. So as they started to rehab it, Chief Saunders worked to have them get the bell out and brought it up here. Had his father-in-law custom design the frame that it sits on now, and it's kind of a legacy item for us. Obviously, it was the early bell for the fire volunteers back in the day, and it's just kind of a nice symbol of where we were at, and hopefully continue going forward in that volunteer spirit.
And it's a great piece of history to have in this, it's not brand new, right?
Yeah,
but
it's not brand new, but it's newer, absolutely.
It's a great facility.
It's a great, the old and the new, and we even, our retirees, we have a fair number that are still in the area that are in their 70s, 80s. We have our coffee crew, we call them. There's 7 or 8 that come up every morning, play cards and drink coffee, and we always encourage our newer guys to stop into the station and just talk to them because you're talking about things coming full circle. The way they fought fires back in the day is now how we're talking about these transitional fires now again. So, listen to how they did things and then taking those and figuring out how to apply them now still has some validity to it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And as far as any challenges you see going forward, anything that concerns you or anything that, with your vision, where do you want to be?
Well, if I had my way, I would stay volunteer for this department forever. We'll see how that works. O'Fallon, like I say, is the largest growing community in the area. And as I tell all of our folks, the only way that the department will keep that volunteer legacy is to continue to have the manpower show up to do the calls. And that includes recruiting new folks, because as we lose folks, you have to replace them. When you can't replace them anymore, you have to figure out what else to do. So it's a balancing act. We are at the standards we need to be at now. But during the day, you're always that one call from disaster. If we had a downtown fully involved, do we have the manpower without all the mutual aid, and then what do you do? Does that signal that we need to change? But the goal is to maintain that volunteer legacy as long as possible, ensure we have the recruits coming in to do that.
And it seems like you are having better luck than most as far as getting and retaining volunteers. I know we work with the VCOC trying to help where we can, but is there anything you guys are doing in particular that's making you have that kind of success?
I don't honestly know if there's anything we're doing differently. We do push a lot of material out on social media, and we've had some professional videos done to put online. But I think part of it comes down to just the city's become much more transitory. We have Scott Air Force Base that we try to tap into. My mindset is we're probably getting 5 to 7 years out of a person before their lifestyle changes or their family changes, and then we're going to move on. So we recruit people. We kind of know that we're going to have them for a short duration, but if we can keep the numbers up, that can kind of offset that some. But I don't know if we're doing anything differently. I think we're just lucky in some cases, and luck is okay with me sometimes.
I think it's a little more than luck. You guys are doing a great job here.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything else that you would want the rest of the state of Illinois to know about you, about your department, or anything in O'Fallon?
No, O'Fallon, like I say, is a great place. Anybody ever thinking of moving this way, please stop in. And we have a huge sports park that brings in folks. So if anybody out there comes in to see the sports, we're right across the street. Feel free to stop in the station and say hi, and we'll show you around. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you opening up your house to us.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in.
Tell us more about you and the department. And if you would like to have your department highlighted on Coffee with the Chief, let us know. JC will put up the website and the email address to contact us. And again, appreciate Chief opening the doors, and hope you guys have a great month.